Typically, by the time a woman gets to the point where she is filing for divorce, she was done 2 years before. If your wife starts telling you, hey, I need help, hey, I have too much on my plate, and you ignore that, you're going to end up divorced. There's a difference between listening and hearing.
Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, the place where high-performing men are empowered to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness while enhancing their career success. You see, in a world full of noise, burnout, and mediocrity, we believe what's missing is courageous and compassionate leadership in the home, because when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You see, this isn't just a podcast. It's a movement for men who refuse to settle for less in their families, in their focus, and their future. We are curse breakers and we are legacy makers. I am your host, Mitchell Osmond, and I'm honored that you've chosen to invest your most valuable asset, which is your time, with me today. Now let's get into it. All right, welcome to the Dad Nation podcast. And listen. Today's guest is very unique. I literally just said this to her before we hit record, and you're about to hear why, but I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with her. Her name's Michelle Locke, and she is a family law attorney, a former associate court judge, and a partner at a boutique family law firm where she specializes in high conflict custody cases. She's built a reputation for advocating for those who feel overlooked or unheard, particularly men navigating some of the most difficult seasons of their lives. But Michelle's perspective doesn't just come from the courtroom, and this is what I'm excited about. Her life has been shaped by personal adversity, including her own experiences with divorce and significant health challenges. These experiences have given her a level of empathy and clarity that you would not find in a textbook, and it's changed the way she shows up for her clients and how she understands relationships at their core. And so she's also the host of the Love Lost Law podcast, where she pulls back the curtain on what really happens behind closed doors in the legal system and in relationships that have broken down. She's got this rare combination of legal expertise, lived experience, and unfiltered truth. And today she's going to give us a sobering look about how marriages fall apart and what men often miss and what's actually at stake if we don't get this right. Listen, Michelle, I'm so glad that you were on the show today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's always weird when you hear someone do an intro about you. I'm sitting there going, this is just a weird experience.
It sounded good though, right?
It did. It sounded fabulous. I was like, ooh, who is this lady?
I know. I was reading. I was like, dang, I did good on this. She's a big deal.
You did. You did.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're going to get into the legal side. We're going to get into the courtroom and hear from your perspective on that sense. But before we get into that side, I want people to understand the woman, behind the desk or behind the robe or whatever you wear as a judge. What are some of the battles that you had to walk through personally that really shaped the way you see marriage and divorce and the resilience? Like, what's a bit of your story and what's brought you here?
My story started in second grade when my mother and my father got divorced. And my mother took me by the chin and looked at me and said, Michelle, you get an education and you don't depend on a man for anything. And that really started me on the path to where I am today. That and my father, who was a surgeon, successful surgeon, told me if I ever became a lawyer, he would disown me. And I was like, done. And so that I joke about that a little bit, but it's really true. I mean, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I cannot remember a time in my life past age 8 years old where I wanted to be anything else but. College for me, undergrad, was just a means to get to law school. And so I've always wanted to be in the courtroom. And then I got married young. I was 25 when I got married. My husband was substantially older than me, 22 years older than me. We were married for 22 years and I got divorced after basically 2 years of begging him to help me out because I just had too much on my plate. Toxic marriage. I got to almost 300 pounds. I've now lost 135 pounds over the course of 5 years. During the marriage, my body fell apart on me, literally, starting in November of 2020 when I ended up in emergency surgery for a neck fusion. In addition to other procedures, I've had 3 separate neck fusion surgeries. I've had both my knees replaced. I've had 6 right ankle surgeries, including a replacement, which was the last one. And then one of the major ones before that was a cadaver tendon. And then they had to anchor my heel bone into place with 2 giant screws. I woke up in the middle of one of my knee replacements. I've been through it. I did a jury trial 10 days post one of my cervical fusions. So I was in a jury trial in a C-collar. And the whole time that I've done all of this, I've been a mom. I've been a lawyer. I've been a judge in one way or another since 2009, basically. I've just kind of lived all sides of the spectrum.
Yeah. Wow. You've experienced a lot of pain.
It's some, life, but right? The way I look at it, with one of my surgeries, the ankle replacement, I was in a wheelchair for about 3 months because you have to be non-weight bearing for a while. And that was the most eye-opening experience I've had because I got to see the world and how it is when you're truly disabled. And that was eye-opening. And I look back at all the pain because I really spent 5 years, 15 surgeries, 5 years. And I spent every 6 months either getting ready for or healing from a surgery. And I look back now going, holy cow, how did I do it? Because I didn't slow down my practice. I had a full law practice. I was a part-time judge and I was still a mom. And I look back now going, holy cow. And so it gave me some insight also into how the human spirit is really amazing and that you can really get through anything. And so after my divorce, I really decided to get out there and kind of share my story, not because it's a fabulous story, but I wanted people to know, other people in toxic relationships, men and women, that you can fix things, you can change things, and you can save yourself. And at the end of your life, you look back at your journey and you figure out you want to look back at your journey and go, yeah, I did it. And so you live with intention and live with purpose, and also kindness matters. So yeah, that's who I am, kind of, with the Texas sense of humor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, she was saying, we were chatting a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, people either love me or hate me, and you get to decide. I was like, I love it. I love.
There's zero in between. There's
zero in between.
If you love me, you really love me. If you hate me, it's with a passion.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm on the love side. All right, so I'm a Michelle fan. So if that counts for anything. Okay, this is good. So you've done a lot of schooling, a lot of education. You've done, you have many years of experience in the courtroom. You've also experienced, a lot of adversity, pain, just not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, all that kind of stuff. Question I was just running through my mind as you were talking is, what is something that pain taught you, or a lesson that pain taught you that law school never could? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So law school doesn't teach you how to be a lawyer. It just doesn't. Law school doesn't teach you how to try a case effectively in a courtroom. Law school doesn't teach you how to be sympathetic or empathetic with your clients. Law school doesn't teach you how to help your clients, particularly in my area of law and family law, how to help them navigate their life during the divorce and after the divorce. Those are things that you either learn on the job, so to speak, or you have some kind of natural ability to be empathetic to others, especially doing kind of in the family law side of it, because I deal with people at the worst part of their lives, right? Because no one gets married thinking, well, I'm going to go have to hire a divorce attorney down the road. And so whenever I meet someone, you always ask, how are you doing? And I almost always add, when I say, how are you doing? I'm like, how are you doing despite the fact that you were sitting here talking to a divorce attorney? Because it's the last thing that's on their bingo card for their life.
you know, yeah, it's so interesting you mentioned that, because me and my wife, when we got married 10 years ago, um, there were a bunch of us, all of our friend groups that got married around the same year. And at one point, like a year into marriage, when I started really kind of digging into what it looks like to have a healthy marriage and all those different things, because we went through our own really, really, really tough season. When I starting to read about this divorce statistics and all that stuff, and I had this thought like, holy cow, out of the eight people, the 8 couples that got married that summer, statistically only 4 of us will make it, right? In the context of marriage. It's like, wow, that's crazy to think about, you know? And then over the years, sure enough, you know, we've had friends who it's not worked out. And it's kind of a crazy, it's like I made an Instagram post about this the other day. It wasn't quite about divorce, but it was this idea about just becoming a roommate. And the opening line was,
yeah.
The opening line wasn't, you know, you didn't stand at the altar thinking one day we're just going to coexist, right? Like this was not the plan for you. But it happens. And so I'd love to get into some of your perspective from the courtroom, like, because you see how marriages end. You see, like this, when I said you've got a unique experience, like this is brilliant because you see the other side that most people don't see unless they've been there themselves or they heard a story told from one of their friends, which is usually colored or favored on their side. So they don't get the actual truth. And that's what I love about your perspective. And so just paint this picture for me for a second. So when a man walks into your office and he says something like, I didn't see it coming. What happened? You know, like this came out of nowhere. I was blindsided, right? What, in your experience, what are some of the things that he's missed? You know, what are some of those warning signs that he just didn't even see coming?
Oh, there are so many warning signs they miss. I will say, generally speaking, and there's always exceptions. If your wife starts telling you, hey, I need help. Hey, I have too much on my plate. And you ignore that, you're going to end up divorced. Bottom line. And when I talk to some of my clients, there's a difference between listening and hearing. Like you can listen to your wife all day long and listen to her talk, and you can turn her into, for those of you who remember Peanuts and the teacher that goes, want, 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 want. Or you can choose to hear her.
Yes.
And hearing what she is saying is entirely different, because typically by the time a woman gets to the point where she is filing for divorce, she was done 2 years before.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And she told you it was coming. She gave you a warning it was coming, and you ignored it. Almost always they ignore it. And I talk, and women manage a lot. And this is not a gender, like women are better, men are better. It's just women manage things differently. And the traditional role is men go to work and come home and get to relax. That's just the rule. And I think that men, to some extent, have taken that for granted because they come home to their wives, and their wives may work as well too and have just as demanding of a job, but they have to ensure that the homework's done, the what's planned for the meal, what activities the kids need to get to that particular day. And if you're not actively participating in that family unit with her, like, because it's not a 50-50 relationship. It's 100-100, or it could be 80-20, or it could be 60-40, just depending on what happens on a particular day and what the needs are. Mm-hmm. But unless you are actively participating in helping manage life, you're going to end up divorced. Bottom line.
So interesting you say that, Michelle, because that's so much of what some of the conversations we have in my communities is like understanding. And a long-time listener of the show would have heard me say this a million times, that a woman's 3 core needs are to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel safe. And I actually do talk to a lot of my clients about, are you listening or are you hearing? Because those are 2 very, very different things. And what are you doing to communicate that you have heard her, so that she feels heard? Because you might say you hear her, but if she's not feeling heard, then you're not doing your job, right? It was like, oh man, our first 3 years of marriage were brutal. But I remember my wife saying, I don't feel like you love me. And I'm like, I do love you. I told you I love you. How many times do you want me to tell you I love you? But until my mentor said to me, he was like, if she's not receiving this love, if you're not loving in a way that she can understand and receive, then you are not doing your job. That like her perception or her feelings are her reality. And so she's not feeling love. You're not loving her. You got to find out a way and have a communication, have a conversation about, hey, honey, how would you like me to love you? And that's kind of when I understood love languages, all those different things. And it was like, wow. And because I would get so frustrated because I'd be like, no, I'm telling you. And you're not.
Right.
So that's you. That's your fault. You're the problem because I'm telling you I love you. But it's like, I just didn't, there's so much I didn't understand, right? My question for you is why? Why don't men see this coming? Because I can validate what you're saying. I mean, I talk to men every single day on Instagram. And I literally had a conversation before we got on the call. He's like, man, she's one day she started packing her bags. And I had no idea it was coming. And she said, she's been telling me forever. And I'm like, and so I can validate that. I hear it all the time. Why is that? Why do you think that men don't see the signs?
Men process, our brains operate differently. Let's just put that there, right? I mean, women and men think differently. And so women may not be, and this is probably the error on some women's parts that even I've learned as I've gotten older, is women need to be more direct in their communications. So there's some work that women have to do, because I can tell you my marriage, I probably wasn't as direct with my needs. Like, I need this. That being said, I think from the male perspective, it is difficult for men to be vulnerable with their partner. And I think that in order to really hear your partner, you have to be vulnerable with your partner. And I think that is missing a lot from relationships, because it's exposing yourself. It's exposing you to, I mean, you're just leaving yourself open. And as a general rule, that goes against what men do, right? Because your job is to protect yourself and protect your family. And so you don't get to be vulnerable. But I don't think you can actually hear what they're saying unless you become vulnerable. And the best example I can give is, I think men will come home from work and say, hey, honey, how was your day? Right. And this is while she's doing dishes and, telling the 3-year-old to stop throwing a temper tantrum, or don't throw the spaghetti on the floor while you're eating it. Right. There's always some commotion going on. But instead of doing it that way, get her attention, stop her from doing whatever it is she's doing, and look at her and say, how was your day? That is such a different approach than, hey, how was your day when you walk in the door? Like, how you approach your partner, and this applies to both genders, can make all the difference. If you just take the time to pause and connect, it could be revolutionary to your relationship.
Hey, brother, let me ask you something. And I want you to really think about this. Are you winning at work, but quietly kind of losing ground at home? Maybe you're the guy people rely on. You stay calm in meetings. You carry that pressure all day. And you kind of wear that like a badge of honor. But maybe when you walk through the front door at home, your wife feels distant. Conversations feel shorter. And instead of being excited to come home, maybe work feels easier. Nothing is broken, but something is slowly drifting. And if you're telling yourself right now, I'm going to fix this when things slow down, or I'm going to fix this when things get easier, if you're honest with yourself, you already know they won't slow down. They won't get easier. Well, the high-performance husband is for men who are done coasting. It's for men who want to win at home like they win at work. You see, this isn't therapy. It's not about fixing your wife. It's not for men who want quick hacks. It's for men who want to be calm under pressure, strong in their body, clear in their thinking, and to become the man that your wife and kids look up to with pride. So if you're listening to this and you know that what got you here won't get you where you want to go, I want you to go to dadnationco.com/accelerator or click the link in the show notes below, and then you can apply to join this accelerator and join myself and many other like-minded men who are leveling up in their home, in their health, and their happiness. They're winning all year long. It's a 12-month mentorship. It's going to change your life. All right, now let's jump back into the episode. Yeah, I think, I'd love to just build on a couple of those things that you're saying, because I think it's so, you're bang on. I think for me, what I observe is, well, number one, men generally speaking, not there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, we're not as emotionally intelligent. We're not as emotionally intuitive, as aware. And so our wives may think that they're being obvious, that they're giving clear signs, but we just don't function on that level. And so it's really hard. Yeah, it's hard for us to process that. And even if we did, all right, like you said, that lack of vulnerability, that's big for guys, because I think here's a big fear that a lot of men think is, if I'm vulnerable and if I'm honest with her about my fears or my frustrations, number one, she's going to think that I'm weak, right? I don't want my wife thinking that I am weak. That's one thought. The second thought is, if I tell her this and I'm sharing something and I'm being vulnerable, she could then weaponize that and use it against me.
Yep.
Because now she, you know what I mean? And so then there's that fear. It's like, oh, heck no, I'm not sharing that with her, right? And that's, I mean, in my experience, those were two very painful lessons I had to learn, and what I hear from so many other men. But the crazy thing is that's the one thing that they want. That's the one thing that they want, right?
Listen, women, you find a vulnerable man, that's the sexiest thing in the entire world.
I guarantee you, every guy who just heard that.
I had a conversation with my girlfriend about this last night at dinner, and it was like, oh God, a vulnerable man? Heck yeah, it's a turn on.
I bet you every man listening to when you just said that was like, but not me. But that's the truth.
Guarantee they're like, but no.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time I opened up to my wife about that. And I was like, it took me like, I was thinking about the whole way home from work. I was thinking about it over dinner. Like, it was at least 3 hours. And I said to her, like, babe, I'm really having a hard time. I'm worried about, I was getting a promotion. Like, I don't think I got what it takes to do this next level of leadership. And I wonder if people will actually listen. Why would they listen to me? I'm feeling a little bit insecure about this, like that I won't be able to do a good enough job. And she looked at me, and her whole body like softened and relaxed, and her eyes softened. And she was like, thank you so much for just like sharing something that I can connect with. She's like, and I'll never forget, she said, it's so good to know that I'm not married to a robot. Because when you share that, it makes me comfortable sharing with you. Right? I was like, wow. I thought she was just going to laugh at me or say that I'm beta or whatever. Right? That's crazy. But so
no,
true.
It is the, and I will tell you, I think that was one of the, I mean, there's lots of problems in my marriage. You start with that, but there was never any vulnerability from him ever. And he never heard me. Women will give signs that they're unhappy in a marriage. They will let you know, but I do think that is one of the things you said is accurate, is that men don't have the same, and I call it emotional EQ, that women do. They just don't. And that's not a deficit. That's not a bad thing. That's just, we're built differently, and that's okay. But the more emotional EQ you develop as a man, the better you're going to be able to hear the warning signs.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, on that point, like, I agree. Like, I see that as a huge strength. Like, and I talk about this often. I'm like, man, you are built for adversity. You are built to face challenges to protect your family. Not just like physically, you have typically more muscle mass, more dense bone structure. You're in a lot of cases larger, right? Your body's designed to carry more physical weight. Emotionally, you have the ability to compartmentalize your emotions and park things. Psychologically, mentally, you have the ability to contain thoughts, and just and not necessarily go there. And that's for good reason, so that you can contain, compartmentalize, move around to make space for your wife, to hear her, to see her and engage, and to be able to help share that emotional and mental load with her. And so I'm like, that whole thing about where you're not necessarily as emotional, like intuitive and invested, that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. And we're designed that way for a reason, so that we could have capacity for our wives. Right. And so many people just say, well, it's not how I'm wired. I'm like, well, your wiring may
fix that if you want to stay married.
Exactly. And I'll often say this when I'm on other podcasts, like, your wiring may explain you, but it does not excuse you. Right. Like, we live in a day and age.
I love that.
Yeah. Like, there's no excuse. Yeah. Sure, we're wired this way, but we live in a day and age where we have unlimited resources and programs and data. I mean, you can learn anything you want. So let's not make that.
We have the most powerful handheld computer there is.
Oh, yeah, of course. So good. I agree with you 100%. Let's talk a little bit about the justice system and why I think, because this is another thing I hear often too. Custody battles, and why men can't afford to be passive in this sort of area. Because I hear this all the time. The justice system, right, does not favor men in custody battles. Number one, is that true? And then number two, why? Why is that the case if it is true?
So I'm going to say it's not true, because you're going to conversely hear women say that the justice system doesn't protect women in family law cases. I have represented both men and women in custody cases. And I do. Texas, just so you know, is the only state left that still does jury trials in custody cases. And so you have a right to have a jury trial in Texas if you want one. And I am one of the attorneys that will do jury trials, because it's a different kind of attorney to do a jury trial. I mean, it just is. Anyways, I think the system is fair, but I don't like using the word fair. I think there's lots of 4-letter words in divorce and custody battles, and fair is not one of them. But I think it is more of you have to look at it from a different perspective, because and it's no offense to the litigants, but the court doesn't care about the individual litigants. It doesn't care about mom or dad. The court cares about what's best for that child. That's the bottom line. And so you have to frame it, the analysis of whether it's appropriate or not, by that. I can't tell you how many times I've represented a mom and dad has asked for custody. And my first series of questions to them are, who's the dentist? Who's the pediatrician? What vaccine do they have coming up next? And they usually can't answer any of those, but yet they want custody. So if you're going in with the attitude of you don't really know your kids, and you're going in and ask for custody, and then you're going to say, oh, the court's not fair, it doesn't side with men, then you're just wrong, because you chose not to know enough about your children to show a court that, hey, I am dad, I'm a present dad, I'm an involved dad, just as much as a mom is. So, I think it works for the most part. I think there are times where judges may get it wrong. Judges are human. Judges make mistakes, and sometimes they get it wrong. I think on the whole, they try to get it right. You've got bad lawyers, you've got bad doctors, you've got bad judges. Like, you're going to find bad in every profession. But I think as a general rule, they try to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's good. It's great to hear it. Great to hear from the horse's mouth, as they say. Yeah. What do you, when your experience walking couples through this, and I don't know, you've worked with a lot of men specifically. You said that you have certainly a soft spot or an expertise in representing men as well, I think, if I remember correctly.
I do. I represent a fair amount of men.
Yeah. What does that mean for a man? Like, what does it do to a man emotionally when he loses access to his children? Like, what do you observe in your situation when that happens to a man?
So there's typically two different responses. There are those that are absolutely crushed because they were involved daily with their children and they are no longer involved daily. And there are some that they're okay with it because it's just kind of continuing what they had in the marriage, which was he went to work, he was the provider, and then on occasional weekends he would get to hang out with the kids, right? So for some, it's just a continuation of what they were doing, minus they're not living under the same roof anymore. And then for those that are like true dads, it's devastating because you lose half of your time with your kids, at least half. In some cases, you lose more.
Yeah. I mean, I was on a show last week and we were talking about time, you know, and one of the hosts said to me, yeah, you got 10 tooth fairy visits, best case. You know?
And so one of the things I talk about, because I talk about time as well, and I do when I'm talking to my clients about custody and their positions on the case is, and because sometimes it comes down to money. And there is no amount of money that can buy you time back with your kids. There's just not. And so you have to figure out what the important matter is to you. Is it the money? Which money can be made, money can be lost. You can start over again from scratch. Or you can have the memories with your kids. And you got to pick which one's more important.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people don't. They get to that point too late, you know, and it's sad, but that's the reality. I had a conversation with a client just a little while ago, and he's got a kid who's 12 years old, and in a situation where his marriage is not doing well, and we were talking, and I said, how old is your daughter? And she said 12. I said, how much have you been around? He said, no, not much. I've worked most of her life. They said, well, I'll make it up though, because we still got another 6 years. You know, I said, did you know that 75%, statistically speaking, 75% of your time with them is over once they turn 12 years old? And it just crushed them, right? When they turn 18, it's 90%. Statistically, right? Because once they move out and they go to university and then they get married and they have kids, I mean, the time spent just plummets. And so it's like, man, if we could all just live with that kind of awareness and intentionality, right? Like how different would we choose to live, you know?
And then I also tell them that you really don't have till they're 18, because truthfully, by the time they're 15, 16, they're telling you what they want to do, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
all right, let's move.
You don't get to go to the pearly gates and ask for 10 years back because you wasted it on something, right? You don't get to do that. You don't get the time back. And the older you get, the more you see how short life is. And the older you get, the more you realize what are the important things. The relationships, the intimacy, because and you get in relationships, intimacy and sex are two different things. But the older you get, the more you value your time, your memories, and what you put your energies into. And a lot of mistakes are made when you're younger that you think, oh, I'll have the time to fix it, or I can fix my marriage, you know, a year from now after this project is over. Or I can fix it 6 months from now when we've started something new, or we'll get into a new house and that'll make it all better. The work starts yesterday, and the work is each and every day past that.
So you track your numbers in business, your revenue, your performance, KPIs, and you know exactly where you stand. But let me ask you this. Do you know the score in your marriage, or are you just hoping it's fine? Because you know what? Most men have no idea. They don't check until something breaks, until the distance is obvious, until the tension turns into silence, until the word separation enters the conversation. And by then, they're playing catch up. And that's exactly why I built the High Performance Husband Audit. It's a free 2-minute diagnostic designed specifically for driven men like you to give you a clear, honest read on where your marriage actually stands. No fluff, no therapy talk, just 10 strategic multiple choice questions, a clear category, and a proven system to help you fix what's off before it becomes something bigger. Because if you're disciplined enough to track your business, you should be disciplined enough to lead your home. So go to the link in the show notes and take the High Performance Husband Audit today. Get your score, get your plan, and start leading where it matters most. All right, let's get back to the episode. I was talking to someone on a call a few days ago who was in a situation, who was, having this conversation about having me work with him because he was very overweight. His wife was unhappy. He's an entrepreneur. Didn't really have a great relationship with his kids. And so I said, all right, man, well, let's, what does it look like to take the next step? He's like, you know what? I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait. I said, oh, yeah, no worries, man. How long are you going to wait? You want to pick up the call in a week or so? He said, no, I've got a 5-year plan, because when I grow my business, to this point, then I'm going to sell, and then I'm going to move to Thailand or Bali or wherever it was. He's like, then I'm going to work on it. And I looked at him and I was like, dude,
nope, you'll be divorced.
Oh man. And meanwhile, this woman was already talking about leaving. Right. But there's just this, like, yeah, I'll take care of it later, after I get the promotion, after I make partner, after I sell the business, it's like, once you get it, it's like that will be too late. Right. It's brutal. It's so sad.
It is. But they think they've got the time, and they don't. It really is. If your wife is telling you, we need to get divorced, she's been thinking about it. And I always go back to, she's been thinking about it for about 2 years, maybe 3.
Yep. Yeah. And I've had a lot of therapists on the podcast that would confirm that as well. If they're talking about leaving, this has been years in the making. Right. So, and I think another thing, just to jump back to the whole emotional EQ piece, is what I think a lot of men don't necessarily understand is how profoundly impactful emotions are to women, because they don't feel the emotions the same way. And so I say to men, like, emotional connection to a woman is oxygen to her soul.
It's everything.
It's everything. It's a cold glass of water when she's dying of thirst. Like, you just don't understand how important it is, because you're seeing the value of emotional connection through your lens, which is a fraction, of what she needs. And so we talk about this often, but for a man, his need to feel loved is far less significant than his need to feel respected or competent. We value respect and competency 10x more than feeling loved. And so I'm like, just simply by your wiring and your nature, and in a lot of cases how you've been nurtured, you just don't, you have no idea how much she needs this and craves this. Therefore, how much it hurts when you don't. And that's what happens, is they care and they care and they care and they care until they can't anymore, because it's so painful. And then they just turn off the tap, and then they get cold, they get disconnected, they get, And so would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because we as women will just shut down eventually. But women have to have, it's like we're the receivers. We have to have the emotional connection for us to be happy. Like, men are, let's just talk about sex for a second. Men are basically on demand for it, right? Like, if they want it, they're ready to go do it. Mm-hmm. Women, on the other hand, need to have the emotional part of it to have that desire kick in, and the desire to want to be with their significant other. And so you get lots of couples that haven't had relations in years, and the man is frustrated because she's not ever in the mood. And then she's frustrated because he's never taken the time to understand that he needs to do something to get her in the mood, that it's not on demand, that it has to be like you work her into the mood where she's, like, hey, baby, let's go. It's almost, we operate differently. And if we don't feel the safety part of it, if we don't feel the emotional connection, we won't get there. and we won't want to have sex. And I talked to, I recorded an episode of my podcast a couple weeks ago with a sex expert, and she called it duty booty. Right. When, I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that forever. But that's what it turns into for women, because they don't have the emotional connection that they need to really enjoy that part of their life. And so they will shut it down. And so if your wife has turned into it's duty booty, like she's only doing it, and she's not facing you, she's not looking at you, and it's like, is this over yet? Your marriage and your relationship is in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. If she's doing it out of obligation, right?
Yep. If she's doing it out of obligation, you got problems in your marriage that are deep, deep issues.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're a married man, I want you to remember this, write it down. You are a microwave and your wife is an oven, right? All you got to do is punch 2 digits and hit start, and you are hot right like that. And the oven needs to be preheated. It needs to be warmed up. It's just, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's truly.
That's a great example.
Yeah, and if we can just understand that, it's like, man, she got to be preheated. Like, that's just, you don't just flip a switch, and turn it on. And I think another thing
it's like, the diesel engine in the old days. I don't know if I haven't driven a diesel in a while, but you'd have to turn it so the spark plugs would get ready to go before you could turn the ignition.
Glow plug, yeah.
You gotta get it's not spark plugs, glow plugs. You gotta get the glow plugs going before you can start the engine. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting that we talk about the wiring piece on a physical side and the emotional side. It's the way we're wired is women, like you said, need to be connected with emotionally before they can open up physically. But men are the opposite. It's only when we're connected with physically through sex, all that stuff. Then it's after that where we start to open up emotionally. Like you think about pillow talk after sex. It's like guys just kind of get a rush of emotion. That's when they start to soften up. That's when they're willing to talk about things and their hopes and their feelings. And it's crazy. And so literally men go physical to emotional and women go emotional to physical. And so it's like if you understand that, and even just the microwave oven thing, like it makes total sense as to why we get into these challenges, right?
It's 100% correct. Like it really is. It's backward. I mean, we're the converse of each other.
Yeah. Which when you're understood and when you can see the purpose behind that and the intentionality behind that, and when you can see that as complementarian, right? And like my strengths support you and your strengths support me, then that's a beautiful place to be in. But unfortunately, most people don't ever get to that point. And they see it as it's our differences that make us, split. It's our differences that make this difficult. But it's like, well, yes, if you look at it one way, right? But I mean, that's a lot of what we talk about too, is just helping men understand, here's where she is strong, and here's where you are weak, and here's where you are strong, and here's where she is weak, right? And that's how you work together. So I love it. I want to ask you a question, because you said something when we chatted a couple of weeks ago, and I laughed, but you said we need to get the men back. Yes. Where did all the men go? What do you mean by that? And I'm not just asking, legally, professionally, but also just personally in your experience as a mom, as a wife, all of those different things.
I live in my masculine energy about every day. It's what I do for a living, right? So I live in my masculine energy because I've got to go to a courtroom. I've got to be a litigator. I've got to be in charge, right? And I can't tell you how many of my female counterparts or my female colleagues are the same thing. We are in our male energy all day long, and we come home and we don't want to be in that energy anymore. We want to be in our female energy. And the men aren't recognizing that and doing what their part to put us in our female energy. And that is creating so many problems in the marriages, because the women need, and I say the men, it's a little bit primitive, y'all. It is. That being said, biologically, we're primitive. Like that part of our system has been developed for a lot longer than our CEO executive functioning. It's just true. And it is nice to come home and have a man. And so that you can be in your feminine, because it sucks being in your testosterone and your male side all day long, and to come home and still have to be in it. Like that's not my role when I come home. I want to come home and be mom. I want to be the wife. And it's not for everyone, right? Like this is me and a lot of the professional women I know, but I think it's a lot more of the working professional women that have that viewpoint. Like I think if you talk to therapists, they're going to say a lot of their female professionals want to come home and be in their female energy, but it takes a man to do that. It takes a male, like where are the men at? It takes a man to put a woman in her female energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And I love that you're saying it, because I say it all the time and often get censored for it. But it's like you said, we can't deny our wiring. We can't deny our history. And you couldn't be more right. There are just things that happen on a hormonal, instinctual level that just don't change no matter what laws or culture says. And I think what makes this more challenging, Michelle, is you got these women who are operating in a masculine role all day, which is great, good, love it. Obviously, someone like you, high performer, it's great. You come home and you want to step into that feminine energy, but then you also, on the flip side, got a man who exists in a world where he can't say the word masculinity without getting canceled, because every time you say the word masculinity, it's paired with toxic. And so it's like you're seeing, especially in the next generation, you're seeing so much confusion, so much like what does it even look like to be a man today in 2026? And out of all the conversations I've had, I think I've been on over 200 podcasts over the last year. You want to know what the most common question I've gotten asked across every episode, doesn't matter if it was business, fitness, motherhood, you name it. What does it look like to be a man today? How do we be a man? How do we know how to identify a man, right? So there's so much confusion around that. And so you've got women operating the masculine and men a lot of times operating in the feminine because they don't know how to operate in the masculine. And so there's the polarity is completely off. And then we wonder why we're not happy, right? Do you see that as well?
I did an entire episode, and it's coming out here in the next week, on masculinity and what it is and how we define it in this modern era, because I agree with you. It is now a negative connotation to be masculine, and because it's assumed that masculinity is toxic. And I think that is so wrong and so inaccurate. Yes, there is toxic masculinity, but that is not the same as being a masculine man. Like, it's just, if you're in your toxic masculinity because you think women are less, or you think because you're a man that, you're large and in charge. Okay, that's bad. But just being masculine and being your family's protector, and it's okay to do that role. And I don't know that I understand why being that role became a bad thing. Like, I don't know how we got there. It's like the pendulum swung so far left, it touched the right. Like, it went so far out there that I'm like, there is a happy balance. And there is good masculinity. And sometimes good masculinity is needed. And also, what is masculine for some is not the same for others. And what your particular partner needs from a woman's perspective in a masculine will differ from people. And that's why it goes back to, it's so important to hear what your spouse is saying so that you can show up in the masculine that she needs you to show up in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. There is a huge amount of toxic masculinity, and dare I say this, there's also toxic femininity.
100%. 100%.
And that's
There
just the world we live in, but no one talks about that side.
There are bad on both sides. And I am never a woman that's going to say women are perfect and without blame. It takes two for a marriage to fall apart. It just does. And it takes the breakdown in communication between the two. And communication has become a lost art form. I can't tell you how often I've had to tell one of my paralegals, can you please just pick up the phone and call? I don't need another email. Just call. And so there is definitely a lost art form in how do we communicate effectively so that our partners, men and women, understand what our needs are. Because I don't think it's done with intention to not meet your partner's needs, especially for men. Like, I don't think that's their intention. I don't think they know how to address it because they don't have the ability to hear. And it's not through their fault. Like, it's part of it's how they're built. And I understand that, but I love that they work with you and you work with men to teach them how to hear.
Yeah. I mean, the art of conversation is, definitely lost. The art of not just conversation, but communication. Like, and that's something even, I mean, it's a little silly, but even my wife and I, like with my son and then my next one, every single time someone talks to him, I'm like, I want you to look them in the eyes, right? When you say thank you to someone, well, number one, you say thank you, you look them in the eyes.
Please and thank you.
Right? You look, yeah, you look me in the eyes. You say, yes, sir. You say, yes, ma'am. Look them but it's like, it's so critical because we just don't, even just something as simple as eye contact. It's like, dude, if I had $1 for every time I was talking to someone, I'm like, would you just look at me? You know, there's so much connection. And then again, with our spouses, it's like, it's a big part. What do you think the phone does? You're having a conversation, you're not even looking at it. You're just scrolling through the phone, you're scrolling on Instagram, whatever. It's like, if we can take away the eye contact, we can take away the intimacy, right? That's a big part of it, right? So it's huge. It's huge. Listen, this has been fantastic, Michelle. I have one more question, two more questions. One more about this conversation, and the next one is more about you. But if you could speak to every single man who's listening to this podcast episode and have a conversation with them, who may be feeling like, man, I feel like my marriage is in hot water, or I feel like I just need to do better. From all your years of experience representing men, you know, and all that you've seen and experienced personally, what is one piece of advice or one encouragement you would give them to take away from today?
Great question. Everything in life, about everything in life is fixable. That's kind of rule number one. You know, death, divorce, and taxes, but almost everything is fixable. You have to figure out how to fix it. Now, saying that, I go to number two, is when was the last time you truly saw your partner? And I don't mean like you see them in the kitchen cooking. When was the last time you looked at her and could see her worries? You could see her concerns. You could see all the work on her plate. When was the last time you could see her for who she truly is? When you start seeing them again, like really seeing your partner, you can fix it. But you've got to take the moment to look at them and really look at them and figure out who that person is standing right in front of you at that given moment and what they have going on and what their needs are. The one thing you said that I really do love is the eye contact. We live behind our phones, behind screens, like we do, like you and I are doing right now. And there is something about those 3 a.m. conversations where the phones are put away and it's just the two of you talking. those are the types of moments that can change the course of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time.
Yeah.
Take the time to see her. Take the time to figure her out. And you can fix it. Everything's fixable.
I love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing. Last question is there's going to be people listening to you and they're on the love side. They love you and they want to hear more of your content. They want to see more of your content. Where can we find you on the old
I'm easy to find.
interwebs?
I'm on all social media platforms at Attorney Michelle Locke. People can also email me at hello@michellelocke.com. I just remind everyone that my name's Michelle with one L, thanks to my mother, Margot, with no T. But find me on my podcast, Love, Lust, Law, which is also on YouTube, and it's anywhere you find your podcast. But I'm pretty easy to find.
Oh, I'm pulling you up right now. Boom. Attorney Michelle Locke. Here we are.
Yeah.
Done. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, you guys listening, I'm going to have the links to everything, to her podcast, to her Instagram, to her website. Go check out her stuff. You've got another love. What was the other one? Love, Lust, Raw or something? What,
Love, Lust, Law. And then I have my more R-rated explicit podcast. It's called Love, Lust, Raw. And those are usually just my co-hosts and I really just being extra.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So yeah, check out her links. Love her stuff. And yeah, give her a follow. Listen to the show. I'm sure you'll just enjoy it a ton. So, listen, Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show today. You've given us such a unique, really cool perspective that so few people in this world will ever get. So, I value your time, and this has been incredible. So, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to having you on my podcast here soon too as well.
All right, let's do it. Thank you for tuning into the Dad Nation podcast today. Listen, if today's conversation challenged you, if it encouraged you or helped you level up in any area of your life, would you do me a favor? Take 60 seconds to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us reach more men who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dad Nation YouTube channel, where you're going to find full episodes, clips, and exclusive content designed to help you win at home just like you do at work. Remember, your family does not need perfection. They need your presence. Your leadership matters. So keep showing up, keep leveling up, and never forget, when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. We'll see you next time.